Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Colorado Rockies rebuild franchise here on MLB The Show 24. We're going to dig into the year 2 offseason today. Very excited for this episode. One of my favorite parts of playing this game, or not one of them, probably my favorite part of this game is going through the offseason, especially in these rebuild franchises as you keep chipping away and building the foundation of your future contender. We did see good growth this past season. Win total improved by 9, and we missed a wild card by just 1 game. So very good season here in year 2, but we have higher hopes for next year. So our last look here at the playoff bracket before we officially move into the offseason. And those who caught last episode saw that St. Louis took the World Series this year 4-2 over the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll now advance officially, starting with retired players. We'll just skim through here really quickly. Justin Verlander retires, definitely a Hall of Famer, 43 years old, 273 wins, over 3,500 innings pitched with 3,538 strikeouts, a 3.27 ERA. Anyone else of note? Jurickson Profar down here as well. And that's it. Otherwise, all free agents. And Max Scherzer makes the Hall of Fame, but Justin Verlander does not. What is up with that? Definitely a big bone to pick with the show on this one. So that's actually just blew my mind. I did not expect that. So we're here at exclusive free agent negotiations to start. Only 4 guys. Lucas Sims down here, we know we're going to let go. He was a little bit better towards the end of last season, but we brought him over as a free agent signing on a 1-year deal. That whip at 159 really didn't get the job done. A good strikeout pitcher, but that walks per 9 at 39, just not good enough. And we really need to bolster our bullpen going into next season. So we're going to let him walk. Carlos Estevez, he was probably our most complete middle relief guy, but started off poor, finished a little bit stronger down the stretch. Still progressing a little bit at age 33, but I think we'll let him walk as well. 6'6", 277. This dude should have been a left tackle. So I think all of these bullpen guys, even Yarborough, he was super strong for us. We claimed him off waivers prior to last season. Over 100 innings pitched, 5-4 record, 3 saves, an ERA at 2.8, and a whip at 1 even. But like I said, we really need to bolster our bullpen. So at this point, we want to open up some spots, and maybe we go back for one of these guys in free agency, depending on what's on the market. But Ahmed Rosario, probably the only player we're going to offer right here. Look at his progression, just tremendous across the board. +5 in each power category, +6 contact versus righties. Vision, discipline, get a good boost, and the fielding going up there as well. Love his utility, ability, along with that 87 speed. So in 300 at-bats, he had 11 home runs, slugged .473, on base at .333, OPS at over 800. So we kind of thought for him to be maybe a utility guy off the bench, a platoon guy, maybe half the at-bats he actually received, but he was just hitting the ball so well, we had to get him in the lineup more. So I was expecting him to demand maybe $4 or $5 million, and he wants a 5-year, $5.3 million deal, but we don't want him that long. I think maybe a 1 or 2 year deal was optimal. Maybe 2 years, but like I said, he's not an everyday player, so I don't think we want to pour so much into him. So we might just let him walk. I think we'll offer maybe 1 year at 4.8 out of the gate, 4.5. I don't expect him to accept that, but he does deserve a long-term deal. But unfortunately, we just, our infield is pretty stocked up. We have a couple younger guys waiting in the wings as well. 30 years old as a Rosario, and we just drafted a bunch of middle infield type guys as well. I'm really torn though. We brought him in just a 1 year, a cheap contract at $3 million, and he tore it up for us. Definitely deserves a long-term deal, but I think we'll just offer him the 1 at 4.5, see if we can bring him back in a similar role. But other than that, we can't really throw too much at him. So Bud Black is still our manager, and he has 1 year left on his contract. I don't know if we just, go and maybe boost our manager at this point. Last year, we limited ourselves to just firing 2 guys out of the staff because, we could have just fired everybody and really boosted our staff. I think we just went for pitching coach and first base coach last year. We definitely need a boost at hitting coach. I mean, Sky Brown giving us more negatives than he is positive. So we're going to go ahead and fire Sky Brown. Cortez, he has the +3 clutch and power, which is awesome. I don't mind -3 for bunting because that's not really, a big aspect of our game. Rafael Chavez, though, no negatives. +2 contact, +1 for power. I don't want to take a hit at clutch, which Cordova has very good boost, but I don't want that -2 clutch. -1 plate discipline here, but the +2 drag bunting, really not worth it. Guadalupe Gil, +2 for power. A bunch of guys who are just kind of solid across the board. Brian Castilla, pretty good. +3 plate vision, +1 for clutch, +2 power. But who did I like up here? David Cortez, +3 for clutch and power, +2 discipline. The -3 for bunting, I don't really mind, so offer him a 4-year, like $6.6 million deal. There are some good backup plans here, so if we miss out on Cortez, not the biggest hit. Cordova, we just hired last season. I think we will just keep Bud Black on for 1 more year, let his contract run out. Even though there's -2 for contact, -3 power, a big hit. And I think we'll go ahead and just fire our third base coach. Doesn't really give us anything positive. There's Chavez. Sam Gooch, -3 arm strength. For position coaches, or I'm sorry, base coaches, I don't mind just going someone who gives you like +2, +1 in a few categories. I don't really like to take a negative. Although, I mean, +3 for speed and blocking. Guadalupe Gil, we talked about, +3 for fielding. And Mick Braley, kind of the stuff I'm talking about, just +2 and then +1 across the board elsewhere. And durability, we definitely could use. We suffered a lot of injuries last season. Charles Holden, +3 for speed, but we definitely don't want to take a hit in durability. +3 stealing. A lot of options here. I mean, nothing really. There's Aaron Boone, but he gives you a lot of negatives. And I think we'll go here. Dan Facwa, got like the +2 fielding, +1 durability, no negatives. We'll give him a 3-year offer at $4 million. So hopefully those coaches sign, and that'll be our coaching staff going into next season, slowly but surely building it up. Like I said, we could have just went back to last offseason and just fired everybody and got just all A's there. And look at that. The first day in the offseason starts out with a trade as the Orioles acquire Seiya Suzuki from the Cubs for Cade Povich and Connor Norby, 2 25-year-olds. Suzuki at 31 years old. So the Orioles, a big move to start out of the gate here in the offseason. And we do get David Cortez as our hitting coach. And I'm just waiting on, I think it was Mick Braley. We get a trade offer here. The Pirates want to give us Javier Rivas, a D potential shortstop for Muhammad Huffman, who we just drafted. I mean, only 51 overall, but B potential, very raw at 18 years old. Going to take him some time to work his way up. So we'll just go back and make sure everything's squared away here. We still have that offer in on Rosario, but like I said, don't really expect that to be accepted. I would assume he gets a decent multi-year offer in free agency. So with this one now, we are advanced into the free agents pool and all that. Did we miss out? Okay, so we still have Facwa. It was Facwa, not Braley. So we are now officially here in the offseason. We can even see right here, top offseason transactions. Blake Snell, Michael King, Dylan Cease, Zac Gallen, Ryan Helsley, Devin Williams, Lane Thomas, Kyle Tucker among the top free agents in this year's class. But first we'll go down the line here, and we have to add a couple guys to our 40-man roster. I think Benny Montgomery, who was just showcased there on that little menu, 70 overall, 23 years old at center field, still needs to round out his offensive game a little bit, but going to be a pretty reliable fielder and good speed as well. So we'll put him on the 40-man and let him play there in spring training. Other guys here, not too many. I think Warming Bernabel, a third baseman, got a late call up to AAA last year. A decent bat, better against lefties with good vision already, and a very good glove there over at the hot corner. Can play first, second, and third. We'll add him to the 40-man and let him, join the team in the spring as well. A couple other guys there, maybe Austin Beck, Greg Jones, a couple center fielders, but we'll stand pat with those two for now. Now, salary arbitration, and we do have a good list of guys here. Peter Lambert will start us off. Good progression across the board, +4 in every per 9 category at least, with +6 Ks per 9, which is now at 64. Last year he made 11 starts and he went 8-0, surpassing his win total from the last 3 years. He was absolutely phenomenal for us down the stretch and kind of instrumental in our late postseason push. 2.31 ERA, a 1.03 WHIP with 77 quality starts, eclipsing his total the past 3 years as well. 1.8 WAR with over 9 Ks per inning and just barely over 2 walks per 9, and then less than 1 home run per 9 at .68. So Lambert had a very good year. certainly going to offer him some arbitration, and I think he'll probably be our number 4, number 5 guy in the rotation. When I offer arbitration, I usually try to get somewhere middle of the pack in what they're demanding the next couple seasons. So this year he wants 2.6, next year 4.4. So we'll kind of meet him in the middle there, give him maybe like 3.2 or something like that. Especially, he was very good last year. We'll even go up to 3.3 for him. We'll offer him salary arbitration. And now we have John Curtis, who was probably our most reliable middle relief pitcher last year. 25 holds, 7 out of 9 in saves. We were kind of a closer by committee approach last year. 3.56 ERA, 1.21 WHIP. So very consistent over the past 5-6 years as a relief pitcher. And now 33 years old. But I think we'll bring him back for maybe one more run. And he's only demanding in the 1.5, 1.6 territory. So we'll go ahead and offer him. Justin Lawrence, I really don't know. He's been wildly inconsistent over his Colorado Rockies career. Going back to year 1, he was 17 out of 18. Looked like he was going to be our closer. And then this year, just not good, 19 out of 26. And eventually we had to go towards someone different. His ERA just barely under 7, a WHIP over 1.5. So I don't think we'll offer him arbitration quite yet. Maybe try and trade him, but we're not going to commit to Lawrence at this point. Lucas Gilbreth, probably going to be one of 2 or 3 lefties we keep in the pen next year. +6 against for hits and walks per 9. Very good numbers in 35 2/3, 3.28 ERA, a WHIP at 1.26, and just under a strikeout per inning. He only wants in the 800,000s, but we'll bump him up to an even. We'll go 1.1 for him. He earned it. Joe Adell. So we acquired him from the Angels. He wasn't hitting well with them at all over the past 2 years. In Colorado, a little different story. We didn't give him too many at-bats, but I think next year he'll be a more integral part of our platoon, especially in the outfield. So we'll definitely bring him back. Gonna be in the lineup more against lefties. And we'll just go up to the 1.9 for him. Now, Ryan Feltner, another oddball here, pitched phenomenal last spring, earned a spot on the 26-man roster, but it took only 9 games to send him down. 24 1/3, 7.4 ERA, 1.89 WHIP. He and Lawrence, 2 guys who have tremendous stuff, both at 90 or velocity in the high 90s, mid to high 90s, but just the control and the command has really been their falling point. So Lawrence and Feltner will kind of hold off for now. Jason DeLay, we claimed him off waivers back in year 1. He's been a backup catcher. 5 home runs last year. Like to see that production, but we're going to try and upgrade our backup catching situation this year. Pavin Smith, he was a spring training stud last year. Just invited him to spring, and he ended up actually making the roster at one point. Only 40 at-bats, but he hit 275, tore it up in AAA, and he's seeing very, very good progression along the board. So I don't know if he makes the 26-man roster, but certainly someone we want to bring back and see if he can compete for a spot. I guess we'll just offer him arbitration at like $800K. And now Willie Calhoun, another guy like Smith we brought in as a spring training invite. Didn't have the best spring training, hit like 20 or so home runs in AAA, but now 31 years old, deep potential, regressing a little bit. We're not going to bother with him. So who do we really have to monitor? Just Feltner and Justin Lawrence we're going to monitor going forward. But at this point we have like around 60 million in budget to work with. But we do have to go through negotiations here for contract renewals. So we'll just go position by position here. I kind of managed offline some of these. We don't need to talk about some of these lower overall like farm system fillers. But Chase Dollander, we're going to stand pat on him right now. What would he be offered? I mean, he only would want probably around $1,800,000. So I'm going to see. We might trade him. He might be trade bait. We have very deep pitchers here in our farm system now. And I think he just hasn't really been that good. I mean, he's still very young at just 24 years old, only 125 2/3 in 24 starts, but I think we'll look elsewhere to fill his spot in the rotation. Taj Bradley, definitely want to bring him back. He was our most consistent reliever last year. We'll even bump up his salary, give him bullpen role, and he should be happy based on his demands. Matt Cook and Jake Bird, a couple older guys here. Bird regressing, didn't see the big leagues last year. Very solid, but just low overall, low potential. So really no point in keeping him. Matt Cook, 35 years old, solid pitcher, but we're trying to upgrade our bullpen. Closing pitcher Ken Hughes. So I was kind of at a crossroads this offseason. I didn't know if we wanted to maybe sign a big name. We saw Devin Williams and Ryan Helsley were on the market, but he was at 75 overall, B potential, 23 years old. A September call-up last year threw him right into the closer role. He went 7 for 7, only 3 base runners in that span with 13 strikeouts. Absurd numbers from Ken Hughes. No runs allowed, a whip under .5. So I don't know if he could sustain that type of production, but Ken Hughes is certainly going to be our closer of the future, and I would assume he wins that role out of the spring. So we'll bump him up to $950K and give him that closer role. Hopefully he can hold strong and deliver in that spot. Drew Romo, I think we have a trade kind of in the works with him and Chase Dollander, so stay tuned for that. Not going to sign him to a deal quite yet. Michael Toglia, we had him a little bit in year one, 141 at-bats in 2023, 2024, respectively, but just stayed, in AAA last year. I think we'll just renew his contract as one of our priority guys down there in AAA. Can't go any lower than 780, so we'll just give him that. Welcome him back to the organization. Kind of same here with Kyle Daytrus. We had him up in the bigs a little bit in 2024, but the bat, nothing special. A decent fielder and already 30 years old, so we might even remove him from the 40-man. Not quite sure, but we will renew his contract at least. Sterling Thompson was very good last year in a limited sample size, 89 at-bats, but he hit 348 and OPS at 900. So I think he's in line to crack the 26-man roster at a spring, but I don't know how active he'll be. He's not going to have an everyday role, so we'll have to work him in as a platoon guy. We'll go up to 880 for him. Heber Rodriguez, we're not going to do anything with quite yet. A deep potential. Another guy who's a spring training invite last year. Actually had 53 at-bats last year, which matched last year's total as well. Batted 245, so he was solid. Nothing special, but we'll stand pat with him. Bernabel just got the promotion to the 40-man roster. We'll renew his contract. At shortstop, there's Adiel Amador, our top prospect in the organization, or at least he was, entering last season, entering this series, but very good fielder. We need the bat to come around a little bit more. Only 22 years old, so we could still give him another year or two in the minors to get his bat around, but we'll give him 800 as one of our premier prospects in the organization. Left field, Yanquiel Fernandez tore it up last year when he was called up, slugged over 420, batted 263, and his potential even got a boost, now up to an A potential, and he's seeing good progression along the board, +7 contact versus lefties, +6 vision, and I think he might be an everyday player for us depending on what we do with outfielders. So what would he demand? Probably around what the renewal would be. We'll actually even bump that up to a 980 for him. And then a couple prospects down there. Benny Montgomery, renew his contract. Another guy like Bernabel, who was promoted to the 40-man roster. And Zach Veen, probably the last one we'll have to worry about here. Very good last year in the first month or two until suffering a torn ACL there in AAA. So that kind of hindered his growth. Maybe we would have called him up at September call-ups, but I think is he on the 40? He's not on the 40-man, so he might work his way up to the 40-man depending on how many slots we have available there going into the spring. And now we're ready to enter the free agent market, and we see Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the top player this year, 96 overall at A potential, 42 home runs, 100 RBIs last year, batted 295, and I'm pretty sure he was the AL batting champion back in year one, batting 325. We actually could even look at that here. A lot of hard, 2024 batting title for Vladimir Guerrero. The Toronto Blue Jays offering him an 8-year, $142 million deal, but he really is not interested in that at all. Houston here, Kyle Tucker offering him a 6-year contract at over $20 million per year. Zac Gallen trying to return there, or Arizona trying to lure him back. Bo Bichette. So 2 priority free agents here for Toronto in Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. Blake Snell here for the Giants, and then all these guys qualifying offers. So if we wanted to sign any of these, we'll have to give up some compensation. I believe a 2nd-round pick. Now Dylan Cease, a very good pitcher here, not offered a qualifying offer, so someone we could maybe pursue, and we wouldn't have to give up any compensation. He wants a 5-year, $89 million deal, which really isn't that bad of a contract. So maybe Dylan Cease, we pursue him to be the new ace of the pitching staff. Josh Naylor, seeing good progression, 96 contact versus righties, batted .318, definitely in there in the batting title race, although Adley Rutschman for Baltimore finished with like a .360 batting average, so Naylor really didn't have a shot there. Ryan Helsley, 4 years, $30 million. Not a bad contract there for the Cardinals, coming off a World Series championship, although he is regressing a little bit, so probably not a contract we want to give out. Lane Thomas here for Chicago, 4-year, $18 million deal, not bad at all. Devin Williams, Milwaukee only offering $5 million per year. Blew 8 saves the past 2 seasons, but still a premier closer. And then kind of, getting down here into the low to mid 80s. So we'll kind of just go position by position now. And we do need to add a starting pitcher to the staff, but Zac Gallen would be phenomenal. I think demanding $21 million per year. I think he won the Cy Young going back to, he did win the 2024 Cy Young. So look at that, 24-3 back in year 1 with 241 innings. A little fall off here this past year, and he is regressing, just minuscule regression, -1 home runs per 9 and control, but still a premier pitcher. But I think Dylan Cease might be the guy we pursue. Last year with a very underachieving San Diego team, 11-10, 182 innings. Injured the year before that, missed about a dozen starts. 4 ERA, a whip over 1.3, 17 quality starts, but you love the hits and Ks per 9. The walks per 9 a little low, but good progression at +5. Tremendous clutch and very good stuff at 81 velocity, 97 break, 80 stamina, and 72 control. So definitely an ace, in the rotation with a knuckle curve, a slider, a four-seamer, and a circle change. I really do like that repertoire. Backup plans, maybe Michael King. So San Diego, 2 of their top pitchers on the market right now. Chris Paddock from Minnesota, good progression, 95 at walks per 9. 11-9 for them. They had a tremendous staff last year as they won the AL Central. 2.77 ERA, 107 whip with 24 quality starts and 3 complete game shutouts. Framber Valdez just demanding a 1-year contract, or being offered a 1-year contract at $15 million, maybe a little out of our price range. I think, similar numbers here to Cease, so Cease would definitely be the guy instead of Valdez. Montgomery at $15 million, probably not going to pursue that. Zach Eflin receives a qualifying offer from the Rays. 15-9 last year. Very good in their staff. Aaron Civale here, also from Tampa Bay, as they won the AL pennant. Over 200 innings pitched, a 2.6 ERA, a 1.13 whip. So very solid here from Civale. And he's demanding about $8 million or so per year. So very an affordable option here to be like maybe a middle of the rotation type guy, but we kind of need someone with a little more firepower at the top. Nestor Cortez, not a bad option, although he had a bad year with the Yankees. They just barely squeezed into the postseason. Brandon Woodruff, right now, $7.2 million offer from Milwaukee. Not a bad 1-year type guy, but more of a backup plan. Kershaw on the market, Stroman, Jacob Junis, Griffin Canning, only 29 years old, but a very high ERA last year, 5.19. And then, like I said, we're getting kind of into the middle of the pack type guys here. Cal Quantrill on the market after we traded him to St. Louis, but they are offering him a contract here at 10.82 years. Paul Blackburn, Tyler Mahle, Domingo Germán, Severino. So going back up to the top, I think out of the gate, let's just go ahead and, offer Dylan Cease a contract, show him we're interested. So he wants 5 years, $89 million. I think we'll go down to 4 years, give him a player option, and maybe even bump it up a little bit. He doesn't like our team because we are not a contender, but I think if we sign him, that kind of puts us on track to be a contender. 4 years, $75 million with a player option. I think we'll just throw that at him, and that still leaves us with $38 million in budget, which I think is plenty. Now here at relievers, and this is where we're going to have to spend a lot of time and hopefully invest in some guys. So TJ Antone for Cincinnati looks to be the top middle relief guy. Not the best numbers with Cincinnati last year, 4.46 ERA, 1.37 whip, but he did have 32 holds, so a primary setup type guy with 99 velocity and break, 80 control, 81 clutch, 98 hits per 9, 80 home runs per 9. So very good across the board, and he looks to be the premier relief guy. Matt Strom seeing some regression now at 34 years old, but very good numbers last year with the Phillies. Jorge Lopez, 33 years old. No movement, really, just -1 in clutch. 4 out of 4 in saves last year, and only 17 2/3 for Tampa Bay with a 2.55 ERA, a 1.08 whip. Very good numbers there from Lopez, and really not demanding much. Maybe $3 million might get the job done for him. Hunter Harvey, like the progression at 31 years old, 77 overall. Washington's closer last year, 43 out of 50. I'm not sure if he's a closer type guy, but probably the best they had to work with. And a rule I have on relievers in the offseason, so it's really easy to, exploit this. He was their closer and he's only getting offered $3.2 million per year. So we could easily just go there, offer like 3.5, 3.6, and maybe come away with him. But we have no plans of using him as a closer, so I don't really want to take advantage of that. We'll see how his bidding goes and see if he just accepts that Washington deal. Neris a little older, Presley. I don't really want to go for any guys here who are regressing. Here's Caleb Ferguson. We signed him last year thinking he would, lead our lefties out of the bullpen, but 21 1/3, a 10.55 ERA, a 2.02 WHIP, and we ended up placing him on waivers, and it looks like he was not claimed by any team still on the free agent market. Lucas Sims, who we let go. Josh Stomont, a decent pitcher, but I want a guy maybe with a little bit higher walks per 9. We need a little more stability. Scott Barlow, a little bit higher at 54. And he's been solid, over the course of his career as a relief pitcher, primarily there in the AL Central. Colin Poche. We need a lefty, so it looks like Poche or Soto are really our only options. We're not going to try and, go back to Ferguson and Matt Strom. A little bit older, going to probably regress as the year goes on. I'd rather someone who can maybe get a little bit better. Taylor Rogers, 35 years old, maybe at the end of his road. Andrew Chafin, love him, but really not necessary. What about closers? So Helsley and Williams we saw headline the class, but both kind of seeing a little regression at this point, although they're only 31 years old. But I think Ken Hughes, we might be better off rocking with our rookie closer. Jordan Romano, I like a lot. 98 clutch, 94 velocity, 91 break with 89 hits per 9. Good strikeout stuff, but Toronto's closer last year, 43 out of 45. And unless we were bidding for him to be our closer, I don't really, want to go after him. He is demanding a lot for, middle of the pack type relief pitcher at 81 overall, but still could get better. And he had a phenomenal season. So like we did with Harvey, we'll kind of just let Toronto do their thing and see if he returns there. Craig Kimbrell, Estevez we can maybe bring back. Like I said, he was very good towards the end of last season, but trying to upgrade our unit a little bit. So nothing too special. I think Antone is someone we definitely want to pursue. I think we'll give him a 2-year, go to $10 million with a player option, but we are going to front load it. So if he declines next year, it'll be for a lesser salary than what he's making this year. And that does give us a pretty good advantage over Cincinnati. And we want to bring in maybe another righty or two, plus a lefty. So let's just address lefty. So Ferguson, like we said, we're not going to bring him back. We tried, and he was just horrible for us. So it comes down to Gregory Soto, 31 years old, seeing decent progression across the board with 90 hits per 9. Going to keep the ball in the ballpark with a good home runs per 9. 99 velocity, good break, and good control and clutch. Last year, 3.10 ERA in 61 innings. So kind of a workhorse for the Phillies. Their top priority there, probably at lefty out of the bullpen. We're going to put him to a bullpen role and offer him 3.2 and see if that $500,000 difference can keep us ahead of the Phillies. Then let's bring in another righty. We have Jonathan Loaizaga here, Sir Anthony Dominguez, two guys with very good stuff, but not the most reliable, although they both had decent years. Anybody up here? I do like Barlow. 33 years old, nothing overpowering, but just a solid middle relief guy. He's been very good over his career. He's cracking, 68 innings every season for the past 5 years. So he works a lot out of the bullpen, and he's very reliable. So we'll try and bring him into Colorado as well. I think we'll have to offer him a little bit more than the Guardians are. We'll go up to 4.6 for him. And with the bullpen, we're just pretty adamant on just offering these guys 1-year deals and seeing what sticks until we can get some more long-term guys into the organization. So we'll just go over to offers here. We have Cease, Antone, Rosario, Soto, and Barlow. So I don't know if that bolsters our bullpen too much, but I think at least it'll be a little more consistent than it was this past year. Plus we still have, Curtis, Bradley, Ken Hughes, and Gilbreth. Also, I want to go over to signed here. So We did bring in some guys, but I want to go down our draft class real quick. So Alex Parra, our first round pick, I think 7th overall. He was the second rated player on the MLB board and according to our scouts, but we got so lucky when he fell into our laps at number 7. Not a good glove, but he does have a strong arm at the hot corner at 81 arm strength with good contact across the board, but very good against lefties with 70 contact, 72 power versus lefties. So I think he's going to be a slugger and someone who cracks the lineup maybe in the next season or two. Then we had David Castilla, our second round pick. He turned out to be a 96 or 98 potential with 66 overall. So already very good contact, very good vision, discipline, clutch. I think he's a future silver slugger at second base, maybe even a future batting champion. But the power does need to go up there a little bit, and the fielding not the best. Never, always going to be a below average fielder there at second base. Ken Ramirez, one of our later round picks, a catcher with good contact, a strong arm there at catcher, but a poor fielder, and probably just going to be a platoon guy in his career, maybe filling in as a backup catcher against righties. Luis Castro, a B potential, 58 overall, one of our later picks as well, and very good speed. Hopefully the fielding can develop a little bit more, but for a center fielder at that stage where we got him in the draft, decent, contact, decent power. Hopefully that progresses along the board, along the line as well. Has that rally monkey quirk, and he's a lefty. Tom Park, we got him in like the 3rd or 4th round. The MLB had him in like the 150s, 160s, but our scouts had him at like 7 or something like that. So we reached a little bit, but it turned out to be to our favor. A potential, 56 overall at 18 years old. So very raw, but a very good fielder at second base with good contact against righties along the line. And he does have good speed and stealing. Robert Marmolejo, another A potential. So we had 3 A potentials in this past class. Another, speedy guy with a good glove at center. Already good contact. Hopefully that develops. And then Muhammad Huffman, who we saw earlier in a trade offer, going to be a good glove at a corner infielder at first and third with a strong arm, but hopefully the bat comes along for the switch hitter. So a few offers now to pitchers, and we'll now look at some position players. And we'll start here at catchers, and we do need a backup catcher. That's one of the areas we need to address, and JT Realmuto would certainly be fun, but regressing in a big way. Only hit .212 last year, now 35 years old. How much is he demanding? He wants like 7.5. Probably not in our budget. Mitch Garver will, provide a big bat as a platoon guy, but not really what we're looking for. Gary Sanchez, a decent fielder at this point, 73 with 87, with an 87 arm. Very good power back there. He wants around $7 million. Backup last year for Arizona, hit .207, but slugged .451, and that's kind of what you expect from him. Francisco Mejia, now the starting catcher for the Yankees. His second season there, they're offering him about $5 million per year. I mean, he wouldn't be someone bad to bring in as a backup catcher, but I think $5 million, maybe a little bit more than I want to spend. Jose Trevino, that backup catcher mold now at 33 years old, provides a very good glove back there, but the arm strength really lacks. Last year with the Angels, hit .265 as their backup, and he wants around $4 million per year. So Mejia being the starter for the Yankees, I don't really want to, jump in there and overbid for him. See if he stands pat. So I think a 1-year deal to Trevino, unless there's like a better defensive option here. Christian Bethancourt, not really an upgrade over Trevino. Christian Vasquez, 35. Darno, a little bit lower. Victor Caratina, a decent glove at 74 overall, switch hitter. Last year with the Astros, batted .208, so really not going to provide much with the bat. Max Stassi. Boston Lamb here, 18 years old, switch hitter out of New Mexico. We'll see if he catches on anywhere. I really don't like to take advantage either of these young guys who just hit the market and they're pretty high overall. Like, he'll sign somewhere and probably get some playing time, I would think. Carson Kelly, Kyle Higashioka, all these guys a little bit older and regressing. So Trevino at 73 overall, I think he'll probably regress a little bit next season, but he'll be our backup. I think we'll just go to like 3.8 and see how that holds up. Mejia, though, I really like the potential. But we still have Danny Jansen as our starter for 2 more years. So I think catcher, maybe a spot we can maybe invest a lot in one of the upcoming free agent classes if someone good hits the market. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit first base along with Josh Naylor. Wilmer Flores, now 34 years old, 23 home runs last year. Paul Goldschmidt comes off a World Series with the Cardinals, and he's still going to play. I thought he would maybe hang it up now, 38 years old, but still chugging along here. Rhys Hoskins, Josh Bell, Switch hitter at 33 years old, 18 home runs, slugged 470 with the Marlins. Dominic Smith here. We really don't need any position players. We really just need to either bring in Rosario or another platoon guy, but we also do need a center fielder. But Luis Suarez here, we'll just outline kind of the top guys at each spot. Willie Castro, Luis Rengifo. Love that first lefties, 99 contact, 72 power, 499 at-bats. Pretty good season with the Angels. Looking to bring him back. Brandon Drury also looking to be brought back by the Angels. Then Ahmed Rosario here. And I think we want to maybe boost up his offer, but we'll hold off on that. Jorge Polanco, 32 years old, but regressing. Biggio seeing some progression. Lefty at second base. Maybe not a bad backup plan if we missed out on Rosario, but he wants even more than Rosario does. A couple older guys here. Kevin Newman, Christian Arroyo. Third base, Max Muncy, 35 years old. 35 home runs last year, though. It's 4 out of 5 years with at least 30 home runs. Yohan Moncada, how much does he want? He wants around the same as Rosario. Definitely offers a little bit higher of a ceiling as well. The White Sox not really offering him a contract. I wonder where he'll end up for a change of scenery. Nick Senzel, so I really do like Nick Senzel. We need someone who can fill in against lefties, and that 90 contact, 69 power, very good, although he doesn't offer anything against righties, but good across the board. Not really that great of a fielder, but he has a strong arm, decent speed for someone who could pretty much play every position. Last year with the Phillies as a platoon guy, 284 batting average, 369 OBP with 461 slugging, and an OPS over 800. So someone who's maybe on the verge of really breaking out, and he even excels as a pinch hitter under quirks, and we kind of need someone to step in, in our lefty lineup, and also step in as a platoon guy. So I think Senzel is maybe who we prioritize here over Rosario, even though I really like what Rosario did last year. But he's probably going to get a full-time gig, a multi-year deal elsewhere. So I think Senzel will just go for it. Like I said, plays pretty much everywhere besides first and catcher. And that bat against lefties really what stands out. So stay there with platoon role. A 2-year deal. I think we'll front load it and give him a player option just to sweeten the pot a little bit. And we'll just go 2 years at 10. I'll even go 2 years, 10.2. And I wish every time he didn't go in, it didn't reset the contract and you have to redo it all over again. That's something that they have to fix in this game, I feel like. Luis Urias, pretty good player, full-time third baseman for the Mariners. They're trying to bring him back on a 1-year deal. Isaac Connor for Alefa, Urshela, Dylan Moore. Some decent platoon guys there from maybe other teams. Really weak here at short. You have Bo Bichette, who's actually regressing quite a bit. That's kind of surprising to see, but Toronto trying to bring him back along with Paul DeJong. With Miami last year, 13 home runs, slugging over 400. Tim Anderson, he was in Cleveland, 270 batting average, not bad, but obviously not back on the level he was on. So now we're here in outfielders, and we really need a center fielder. I expressed how I wanted to bring in a traditional center fielder with good contact, good speed, a good glove out there, and really nothing here that fits that mold for left fielders, for Dugo. A good year with Oakland, actually progressing very nicely here. They're trying to bring him back. Austin Hayes getting an offer from Baltimore. Kyle Schwarber now 33 years old, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, and he has absolutely been crushing it with the Phillies. Batted .317, but they're not even offering him a contract. Rosario, JD Martinez, who hit a career-high 48 home runs at age 38, now 410 on his career. Austin Slater, pretty good against lefties. 18 home runs last year with Baltimore. Jock Peterson, a good power bat off the bench. And then just a bunch of older guys here. Tapia, who we had back in year 1. And now center fielders, and it doesn't really look like there's a guy that fits that mold. I mean, Tommy Edman at the top, pretty good, very good glove, above average speed with decent contact. A good year last year for the World Series winning St. Louis Cardinals, batted .290, high OBP, a high slugging. Slugging actually a career high for him, but he wants around $10 million per year. And I don't know if he's really what we were envisioning as our guy in center field. I mean, Cedric Mullins, decent. I've always liked him, but didn't really, I feel like he's kind of regressed over the course of his career since that 2021 season. Still a solid player, but not what we envisioned with only 65 speed. The contact not really there and kind of one-dimensional in the lineup. Adam Duvall, certainly not that guy. Kevin Kiermaier, maybe a few years back, would have been the guy we look for. Decent production last year with the Blue Jays, but what would he be offering? He wants a 7.5. I keep saying offering when I mean demanding. So Kevin Kiermaier, just a little bit older, a shell of his former self at this point. Trent Grisham doesn't really have the speed that I would like, nor does he have the contact across the board. Mike Yastrzemski, 35. Chris Dudek here, a 21-year-old. He'll probably get signed somewhere. If some of these, computer-generated players with good overalls, if they go through the course and they're still here later on in free agency, maybe we'll throw something at them. Victor Robles kind of fits that mold, although the speed really down from his younger years. And he's not really an everyday player either. And then we kind of get down here to the 60 overall type guys without right field. Kyle Tucker would be a tremendous addition, but not really what we need at this point. Our lineup is pretty much full, minus a center fielder. Lane Thomas, not really demanding much, one-dimensional though in the lineup. Really just a guy you put out there against lefties. Max Kepler, Hunter Renfroe, Michael Conforto down here. Spent last year in Seattle. Margot, not a bad option, but we need someone really with starting potential. So nothing really here on the free agent market. We just really offered Senzel and Trevino. But I want to take to the trade market as I kind of teased earlier. And I looked around at center fielders, and look who I found, Luis Robert. So at this point, this is a year ahead of what would be this upcoming offseason in present day. And still Robert on the White Sox, despite another very, very down year. I think actually the worst record in baseball. And his average over the course of this franchise has been very low. 215 in year one, 217 this past year. OPS under 700 last year, just barely over 700 this year. So kind of struggling on a bad team right now, and I think the White Sox are desperate for an influx of youth, an influx of prospects, and I think we can help them out. So they are seeking a starting pitcher. Going over to the rotation, just Garrett Crochet, the only player over 75 overall, so they need a boost here. They have Divey Garcia, a decent prospect, although 26 years old. Drew Thorpe here in A potential, but only 9 starts on his career, but Chase Dollander, I mentioned earlier, we entered this series, back in episode 1. He was our top prospect, or our top pitching prospect in the organization, and he has a bright future ahead at A potential, only 24 years of age. We've had him in a bigger workload this past year at 19 games started, but we're trying to bring in Dylan Cease now at this point, so spots in the rotation are scarce, and I don't know how much he'll benefit from more time in the minor league, so I think we'll make him the centerpiece of this package for Luis Robert as we seek to fill our center fielder. So they also want other starters. We have a very deep staff here. Rudy Smith in A potential at 22 years old. Jose Vera B potential at 61. Herb Lopez B potential at 65. Michael Yamashita, our first round pick from year 1, the 3rd overall pick, a 68 overall, just 19 years old. So Juan Ayala, B potential, 69 overall. So we have a bunch of young guys who can kind of fill that spot of Dollander in the rotation in the next couple years. But for now, I think we need to inject more stud, firepower, which enter Dylan Cease hopefully. So I think we'll just start with Dollander for now. They also want a catcher, and I think Drew Romo might be a good fit to throw in this trade. We really would like him as our hopefully catcher of the future. He's going to have a very good glove. You like the switch hitting prowess he brings, but I think that's a position we'll look to address in free agency in the next year or two. Hopefully we can get lucky. Maybe someone like Adley Rutschman ends up hitting the open market and we kind of just throw the house at him. So even with 2 Dollander more of a premier player than Romo, at least potential-wise, still we need to bring in one more player, and they're interested in a first baseman or third baseman. And if you look at their roster, a 67 overall here at first base, at third base, a 67 overall. So really anyone we give them, they'll probably be a starter. And Elehuris Montero, a cheap deal. He's seeing good progression, but with Alonso brought in last year, Santander, Rosario, we had Nolan Jones, Chris Bryant for a little bit. His spot in the lineup just really didn't stay consistent as it was back in year 1, where he led our team in home runs and RBI. So he's a guy who has proven in the past he can hit well and I think a change of scenery at this point is kind of what he needs. So look at that. Dollander, Romo, and Montero is enough to get it done. So I think we're set here to make a blockbuster trade. And for those who have been following this series, I'm not over aggressive with trades. I don't take advantage of the trade system here in the show because it's so easily to exploit it. And I like to keep these franchises somewhat realistic. So let me know what you think about this. Chase Dollander, A potential at starting pitcher. Drew Romo, a B potential catcher, not far away from maybe a spot as a starter, at the very least a platoon guy, maybe even this season. And then Eleuteris Montero, someone who can provide a boost to their lineup and maybe be a 1 or 2 year starter with a club option after next season. So some good team control there on Montero, who's still progressing and should hit at least the high 70s at this point. So Luis Robert, look at his ratings before we make it official. A very good fielder, what I wanted, maybe a potential Gold Glover there. He won one back in 2020. A Silver Slugger back in 2023. 94 power versus righties, 89 versus lefties. The vision, discipline, and clutch, though, is what we're going to focus on trying to improving in his game. At just 28 years old, we have him for 2 more years at pretty much $20 million over the course. So the trade is now official, and we can welcome Luis Robert Jr. to the Colorado Rockies as we make a blockbuster trade here on the first day of free agency. So now with that, I think we could sim ahead a little bit and see if the rest of our offers here come to fruition. Nick Senzel spent the last few years in Cincinnati, but last season with Philly, prior to that Washington, but started his career in Cincinnati and was there for 5 years. So we're hoping to keep him in the National League along with TJ Antone, his former teammate there in Cincinnati. Dylan Cease would be a tremendous get if we could bring him in along with Luis Robert, 2 former White Sox teammates, and then Gregory Soto and Barlow to bolster the bullpen, along with Jose Trevino to be our backup catcher. So we'll sim ahead a couple days and look back and see how it goes. And we do get Dan Facqua as our third base coach. And now here's sim ahead a few days. We'll see how we're panning out. So we still do lead for Cease. The Angels and Padres offering him identical 6-year, $102 million contracts. Antone, we still lead the way. The Marlins and Braves now in on him. Senzel, we're the only team right now bidding for him. Soto, we're still edging out the Phillies, and Barlow's still ahead for him. So I think we're going to have to go ahead and make this a 5-year contract for Dylan Cease in order to kind of stay afloat in his negotiations. What about 5 years, $95 million? And that does give us a little bit more of a buffer there against the Angels. And that still leaves us with about $15 million in budget. So we still have some wiggle room. Sim had a few more days here. And there's so much anticipation, you don't know if it's going to pop up saying, Dylan Cease is no longer considering your contract, or you'll see, Cease pop up with that Phillies graphic as they're now below us just barely. Scott Barlow, we still lead for him. So we did get a few signings. TJ Antone comes over and gives us a big boost in the bullpen. We have him at $5.4 million this year with a player option next year at $4.6. Nick Senzel signs, so that was kind of easy. Maybe even could have offered him less. We gave him 2 years, $10 million or $10.2 million, and we think he's going to rake against lefties, and that's really all we need him for. But we like what he provides as a utility man, although we wish the glove was a little bit better. Gregory Soto gonna, spearhead our lefties along with Lucas Gilbreth out of the bullpen. We got him on a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. Jose Trevino signs as our backup catcher at $3.8. So we hit 4 for 4 or something like that on free agents. Cease, though, of course, the big one, and we'll keep moving it along here and see if he signs before. Like last year, we were bidding for Corbin Burns. He ended up taking forever to sign. So we ended up going for Max Fried to save a little bit of money. That's ultimately what happened. So Cease could really, drag this out if he wants to. Zac Gallen still unsigned, along with Valdez. Chris Paddock still here. Suarez, Civale. So still a few backup options if we need it. What about Romano at closer? Still just one team in on him. Helsley getting a little bit of a bidding war there with the Braves leading the way. Some head to this first milestone. So 40-man rosters need to be assigned. And I think we'll just stick with what we did earlier. Sim ahead a few more days. And we're actually over the roster limit, so we're going to have to make a couple adjustments there. All right, so we did what we had to do. We cut a few players to make some spots for hopefully Dylan Cease. So we're actually going to up his contract a little bit. We'll make it a player deal or front load it, and a player option I meant on that. So we'll bring it up to maybe even past $100 million. I really want to ensure we get him into Colorado. 102.5, 5-year deal, 20.5 per season, and that almost maxes out his interest at this point. You know, we're paying the same, more than the Phillies and Angels would be for one less year. So really showing our commitment to him, our interest, and hopefully that's enough to get it done. Sim had a couple days. We have to go to salary arbitration now. It really was just two players, Justin Lawrence here. It really has just gotten, like worse for him. I mean, last year he was phenomenal, but this year just very up and down, inconsistent pitcher. But what does he want per year? Like 1.7, 1.8. So we'll just offer him arbitration at 1.5. Worst case, he doesn't make the roster. He goes back to the minor leagues, but maybe even some trade bait. Kind of the same story here with Feltner, now 29 years old. We'll give him one more chance as he's gone on. Kind of gets worse and worse each year. Very bad last year in just 24 innings, but same story. We'll give him one more chance, and we'll just offer them arbitration to match last year's salary. And I'll keep moving along here. And now that we moved past the arbitration phase, we'll check out Dylan Cease. And now the Texas Rangers getting in on him, heavily outbidding the Phillies. So the Rangers in on Dylan Cease. Now it looks like the Rockies or Rangers at this point. Now Sim ahead a few days here. And Dylan Cease goes to Texas on a 6-year, $109 million deal. He just did not want to come to Colorado, and I really can't fault him all that much, although I think he was probably the missing piece at, making us a contender this year, or at least a, more stable contender. Now we do have a spot in the rotation to fill as Ryan Helsley goes to the Braves, Devin Williams to Toronto. So it looks like they signed a new closer, and maybe that gives us an in on Jordan Romano. They're still offering him 1 year, $7.8 million, but they bring in Devin Williams, someone to compete with him as the closer, and maybe we'll jump in on him. We'll do a 2-year club deal this time, and he really is not interested at all. If we go 2 years, $16 million, and still not interested, so we'd have to go like 8.5 at least. Not really willing to do that. It was worth a look though, but it looks like he might just return to Toronto. So here we have some backup plans. I mean, Zac Gallen kind of, demanding similar numbers to what Dylan Cease was demanding. We had to drop his interest bar down a ton, though, to get there. Still in the 120s. I don't think this is even going to be halfway filled. I don't think he either wants to come to Colorado. And that's a typical theme with starting, or just any pitchers who wants to come pitch at Coors Field. We'll do a player option, front load it, and that's not even close. So we would have to, heavily outbid these other teams. The Rangers also in on Zac Gallen, but the Phillies currently leading the way. Then there's Michael King, who I really don't see as a top-end rotation type guy, especially at this stage. Really struggled last year with the Padres, more of a reliever. They're, going back to his days with the Yankees. Framber Valdez, he wants like $18 million for 1 year. I don't think that would be the worst contract to take on, especially we have like $33 million in budget right now. Montgomery wants like 15. Rangers Suarez and Aaron Civale. I think Civale is a really solid pitcher. Good stamina. He's not going to walk anybody. The home runs per 9, it goes up to 66 from +4. Very good clutch and control. 5-pitch mix with 82 velocity and 98 break. Has won 30 games over the past 2 seasons. Eclipsed 200 innings last year on a team, that won the AL pennant. 2.6 ERA, a 1.13 whip. So not the most dominant guy, but keeps runners off the base pass and works through traffic well when it does happen. So he wants $8 million, $9 million per year. Suarez wants about the same. And then there's Valdez up here who could just throw $18 million at for 1 year. But would it be more worth it to bring in Civale for like 3 years rather than bringing in Valdez for 1? I do like the lack of term commitment on Valdez if we just throw like a 1 year, $18 million deal at him. But I also think at the same time we could use another righty in the rotation because we already have Fried and Freeland. So we're going to have two lefties. And it looks like Valdez isn't really overly impressed either. We have to outbid Arizona by like probably another million or so if we want to make it comfortable. So I think for Valdez, we'll have to go up to like 19.5, which really is a lot. I mean, he's been good over his career with Houston, but nothing, close to what he was back in 2022. Still good over the years, but over the past 2 seasons of this franchise, not the best. Only 167 innings last year, missed a few starts. And Civale is just really consistent, really, just a solid pitcher. And I think we could use the right-hander instead of the lefty. So let's get in on the Aaron Civale bidding war here. Tampa Bay trying to bring him back. And for him, we would even maybe go to like 38 million, 38.6 over 3 years. Okay, so 3 years, he only wants 8.8. So that plays into our hand even more. So we could do like 3 years, 25, and we still have a big advantage over Tampa Bay. I think that's a decent contract for Civale. I think we could even manage to get a club option in there. So 3 at 25, we'll throw a club option and see how that works out. So with that, we'll sim ahead and, Civale not really on the same tier as Dylan Cease, but a very solid pitcher. We don't have to pay, over the moon for him. As we're now here in December, Michael King goes to Toronto. And it looks like he's the only pitching domino to fall after Cease. So Zac Gallen now favoring Kansas City. Valdez. Oh, wow, I didn't even realize we still had that offer in on him. We'll pull that one out. Miami leading the way for him. And we still do lead for Aaron Civale. Woodruff is still here. Suarez looks like he went back to Philly. And we'll keep moving along here. Try to squeeze in the last part of this episode fairly quick. Don't want to make this video too long. We really only have the Rule 5 draft and kind of just waiting on Aaron Civale, who now the Giants lead for him. So we're definitely going to boost it up a little bit. We'll go back to the club option. I think we'll give him like 28.2. And that does put us back ahead of San Fran. So we have to bid, like over $3 million more than the Giants for him to put us at the top. Sim had a couple more days here. And the Nationals out offering us a trade. Robert Hassell III, 70 overall at 24 years old, seeing good progression across the board. Love the speed, love the, a potential glove there with a strong arm. Going to hit righties pretty well. 3 out of 16 last year. Maybe a September call-up. Who do they want for him? I mean, that's a pretty good player. Alfonso Campaneris and Mitch Bratt. I mean, I don't think this package is really enough. They do have Pete Crow Armstrong now, too, so a similar mold to Robert Hassell III. And, I mean, I don't really see this worthwhile for the Nationals. Otherwise, I totally would pull the trigger, but I don't want to take advantage of that. And I also saw that we did sign Aaron Civale, so our rotation is now set. Civale, a 3-year deal on a team option for the 3rd season. So I think he'll be a solid, like number 2, number 3 guy for the rotation until some of our younger guys start to develop along. So we'll sim ahead to the Rule 5 draft, which is really the last event here in the offseason that we're going to pay attention to. Also the draft lottery, and we'll see what our odds are. So we're at 13, so I wouldn't expect a jump up unless we just get super lucky. The A's at number 1, the Mets at number 2, with Chicago White Sox at number 3. Each of those squads 60 wins or less. Then you see the Nationals, the Brewers, Red Sox, Giants, Angels, Pirates, Blue Jays, rounding out the top 10, followed by 3 NL West teams in the Padres, Diamondbacks, and Rockies. So, let's hope for number 1. The odds are certainly against us, but crazier things have happened, I suppose. And they really keep the suspense going. So the Mets jump up 1, the White Sox jump up 1, and the Blue Jays jump up all the way from 10 to number 3. The Royals jump up 11 all the way to number 5. So they were at 16, and they get a top 5 pick. Crazy turn there for Kansas City. So ultimately, we do fall down 1, and we'll be selecting number 14 in the 2026 MLB draft. Now we'll keep it going here to the Rule 5 draft. Like I said, probably the last thing we'll go over in this episode. The A's at number 1, we picked 12. So a bunch of players off the board here. We'll review these guys. Tony Santillan, a 71 overall, hasn't seen the big leagues throughout this franchise. Good stuff with an 84 velocity, 9-1 break. It looks like he'll be in the Oakland bullpen. Sammy Siani goes to the Mets. Nothing with the bat, but a very good fielder in the outfield with good speed. Looks like he'll make his MLB debut for the Mets. Dennis Santana goes to the White Sox. Pitched in 27 innings last year with the Mets. A 5.33 ERA with a whip over 2.2. But good velocity, good break. You really just have to harness that stuff now. Will Warren goes to the Nationals from the Yankees organization. Although it looks like he was with the White Sox as well. 119 innings pitched. And now Ethan Small goes to the Red Sox. Only 10 innings pitched in his career. Hasn't seen the big leagues throughout this franchise. So we'll take a look at the board here, see if anyone strikes our fancy, but I wouldn't count on it. Blaine Enlow would be potential starter. 69 overall at 27 years of age. Nothing really here in the bullpen. At catcher, nothing really here to write home about either. Or first base, Andres Chaparro. See potential, but nothing really crazy with the bat. Second base, Yu Chang. I mean, he's always been a good glove, had a good glove in the infield as a utility man. Hasn't seen the big leagues over this franchise. If we needed, someone to compete for a utility spot, maybe we'd bring him in. But Jeremiah Jackson, the top shortstop, a decent glove, decent speed, bat, nothing special. Although the contact wasn't horrible. In the outfield, really nothing to write home about here. Jay Allen is a 23-year-old, see potential at 67 overall. Pretty good player, seeing good progression in contact and power. And then at right field, really nothing either. So we didn't have a selection last year in the Rule 5 draft. Again, we will not. And I don't think too many players will go off the board after this point. Athletics do take another guy, Cole Wilcox, another pitcher. And that'll do it here from the Rule 5 draft. Cole Wilcox, 26-year-old starter from Tennessee, a 3-pitch mix. Maybe just going to be a reliever, a long relief type guy there for the Athletics. So that's the Rule 5 draft. We'll sim ahead more and see, when Vladdy signs, when some of these top guys sign. So we get a trade here. The Cardinals acquire Freddie Peralta from the division rival Milwaukee Brewers, and they send over 2 young, decent prospects, shortstop Mason Wynn, center fielder Victor Scott. Looks like a pretty fair trade there between division rivals. Now, Willy Adames goes back to Tampa Bay from the Brewers as they acquire Brock Jones and Cooper Kinney, a good infield prospect there from Tampa Bay. So Willy Adames back to the Rays as the Brewers make 2 trades there, sending away Willy Adames and Freddie Peralta. Zac Gallen goes to Kansas City. So a very good signing there from the Royals, who jump up into a top 5 pick. Looks like a team on the rise. And we'll check out these top guys. So, most of the big names have signed. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. now deciding between Minnesota, Miami, Tampa Bay. Kyle Tucker, Baltimore, and Kansas City are bidding for him. Imagine if the Royals could get Tucker and Zac Gallen in the same offseason. Jordan Montgomery still favoring the Diamondbacks. Tommy Edman favoring Tampa Bay. Jordan Romano now getting a 1-year contract from the White Sox. What if we go 1 year, $9 million? Would he be interested in that? And he's not even interested at all. So the pitchers do not want to sign here in Colorado, as you would expect. Not a pitcher's friendly park. As we'll just sim ahead until Vladdy and Kyle Tucker sign. So Andres Munoz traded to the Guardians from Seattle as the Mariners get Petey Halpin, a 23-year-old center fielder, Gabriel Rodriguez, a 24-year-old third baseman, and Wilfredo Antunez, a 23-year-old right fielder. Looks like all decent prospects there for Andres Munoz as Cleveland bolsters their bullpen. They now have a new closer. I think they actually traded Emmanuel Clase to the Rangers last year. And now we see the Diamondbacks acquire Cody Bellinger from the Cubs as the Cubs get Christian Walker and Eduardo Rodriguez, a rare trade, just kind of swapping veterans at this stage. Now here at the end of December, and we're now here in 2026. Happy New Year, as Vladdy and Kyle Tucker still on the market. I just went ahead and simmed all the way through January, and now Kyle Tucker favoring the Nationals while Vladimir Guerrero still not signing yet. He's probably demanding, what does he want? He wants $29 million per year, and they're giving him over 7 what he wants for 5. So he's not getting close to what he's demanding. Kyle Tucker, though, 9 years, $210 from the Nationals. I would fully expect him to sign that one here in the coming days. We're now here in February, closing in on arbitration hearings, as Kyle Tucker does go to the Nationals, so they get a cornerstone player there. for one of the teams that's been pretty bad over this franchise. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. also heading to the NL East as he signs with Miami, a surprise deal. It looked like Minnesota was going to end up with him. So the last two big dominoes fall here in free agency. Tommy Edmonds still on the market. St. Louis leading for him. Otherwise, just a bunch of veterans here who may not find a roster again in their career. So with that, we'll sim through arbitration hearings and, put a bow on this offseason. Joe Adell gets 1.9. Feltner gets 1.3. Lawrence gets 1.6. Curtis gets 1.6 as well. Now, Peter Lambert gets 3.3. So most of these, have favored us. We're pretty reasonable with these arbitration offers, although Lawrence and the pitcher Feltner, they did not go in our favor. But this is where I'm going to leave you, folks. Thank you so much for watching a super eventful offseason. We traded for Luis Robert, who debuts as our top-rated player on the roster at 93 overall. A pretty good core now on offense with Robert, Alonso, Nolan Jones, Santander, Jansen, Ezequiel Tovar, McMahon, Brandon Rogers. So I'm very excited about our lineup, which showed a lot of growth last season. Now we have Max Fried and Aaron Civale, two All-Stars from last year, headlining our rotation, although we did miss out on Dylan Cease, a true ace. We bring in TJ Antone, Scott Barlow, Gregory Soto as pitchers to bolster our bullpen, and I think our team is in pretty good shape going into next year based on the moves we made here in this offseason. So let me know what you thought of the offseason. Like I always say, my favorite part of the game, but I'm kind of sad it's over, and I'm certainly looking ahead to next year's offseason. But as always, everybody, it's been real, and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.